Welcome to Pop's Party Family, where fun and magic come alive. New videos and shorts every day. Let's laugh, learn, and play. Hey!
The Clever Farmer and the Greedy Thief. A heartwarming story of wisdom, greed, and redemption. What would you do if a dangerous thief wanted something that belonged to you? Would you run away, call the police, or try to outsmart him? In the quiet farming town of Willow Creek, Texas, everyone believed that strength won every fight. But one poor farmer named Kate Parker proved that a clever mind could defeat even the smartest criminal. Stay with this story, because what Kate does before sunrise will leave you amazed. Kate Parker lived in a tiny old farmhouse on the edge of Willow Creek with her husband Ben. They were kind people, but life was not easy. Their little farm had dry soil, broken fences, and an old tractor that coughed louder than it worked. Every morning, Kate woke up before the sun, fed the chickens, watered the crops, and worked until sunset. Ben, however, had one special talent: sleeping. If sleeping were an Olympic sport, he would have won a gold medal every year. One morning, Kate walked into the kitchen carrying 2 heavy buckets of water. She found Ben snoring so loudly that even the family dog covered its ears with its paws. She laughed and said, "Ben, if snoring could grow corn, we'd own the biggest farm in Texas." Ben slowly opened one eye, stretched like a lazy cat, and replied, "I'm just saving my energy." Kate shook her head and smiled. Saving it for what? Retirement. Even the dog barked as if it were laughing. Although money was always tight, Kate never gave up. She believed that hard work always paid off. Their small field sat beside an old white church that had been part of the town for over 100 years. Every Sunday, people came to pray, sing, and leave donations inside. Kate loved hearing the church bells while she worked, and she often whispered, "One day this little farm will finally bring us better days." Late one afternoon, while Kate was digging the hard ground, a tall stranger wearing a black cowboy hat walked toward her. He had sharp eyes, a thick mustache, and a smile that looked far too friendly. His name was Victor, but everyone in nearby towns secretly knew him as a clever thief. Kate had never seen him before, yet something about him made her feel uncomfortable. Her instincts quietly warned her that this man was hiding something. Victor looked around the empty field before smiling. "Ma'am," he said politely, "I'd like to buy this land. I'll pay you $10,000 today." Kate nearly dropped her shovel. Nobody had ever offered that much money for this dry little farm. She smiled politely but asked, "Why would anyone spend so much money on land where even the weeds complain about growing?" Victor laughed nervously and quickly offered even more money. That made Kate even more suspicious. Kate suddenly realized the truth. Since her land touched the church property, Victor probably wanted to sneak underground and rob the old church without anyone noticing. Instead of arguing, she decided to play a little game. Looking around as if she were afraid someone might hear, she whispered, "I can't sell this land. My grandfather left me a secret map before he passed away. He said our family buried a treasure somewhere under this field many years ago. That's why I've been digging every day." Victor's eyes became as wide as baseballs. Inside his head, dollar signs were dancing. Pretending to believe every word, Victor nodded politely and walked away. But instead of leaving town, he hid behind a group of trees until nightfall. Kate noticed him from a distance and quietly smiled to herself. She packed her tools, returned home, and acted as though nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Ben was happily eating apple pie and asked, "Did you find any treasure today?" Kate winked and replied, "Not yet, but I think someone else is about to do all the hard work for me." That night, after the whole town had fallen asleep, Victor quietly climbed over the fence with a shovel. Under the bright moon, he dug and dug and dug, convinced that gold was buried somewhere beneath the field. Sweat poured down his face, his hands were covered in dirt, and he even argued with a stubborn raccoon that refused to leave the field. By sunrise, the entire farm had been perfectly dug up. But there wasn't a single gold coin anywhere. Furious, Victor finally realized that Kate had fooled him. Angry and embarrassed, he disappeared before anyone could see him. The next morning, Kate walked into her field and couldn't stop smiling. The hard ground had already been completely prepared for planting, and she hadn't lifted a finger. Even Ben stared in shock. "Kate," he asked, "who did all this?" She laughed and answered, "Sometimes greed works harder than honesty." Together they planted fresh seeds, knowing this season could change their lives forever. But Kate had no idea that the angry thief wasn't finished with her yet. He was already planning an even bigger revenge, and next time the danger would come much closer to home. Victor spent the entire night digging for a treasure that never existed, only to realize he had done Kate's hardest job for free. Kate never had a treasure map. She invented the whole story the moment she realized Victor was planning to rob the church. Months passed, and Kate's hard work finally paid off. The crops grew taller than anyone had expected, and the little farm was filled with fresh corn, vegetables, and golden wheat. After selling her harvest at the Willow Creek Farmers Market, Kate earned enough money to repair the old barn and even buy herself a beautiful silver necklace. Ben couldn't stop smiling. "Look at us," he laughed. "We finally have enough money to eat pie whenever we want." Kate laughed and replied, "Let's not celebrate too early. We still have bills to pay." Ben looked disappointed. "There goes my dream of breakfast pie." One cool evening, a traveling salesman arrived in town wearing a colorful cowboy hat, dark glasses, and carrying a large suitcase. Nobody recognized him, but Kate noticed something familiar about the way he walked. Then she saw his thick mustache, even though it had been trimmed shorter. She smiled to herself. "Victor," she whispered quietly, "you can change your clothes, but you can't change the way you walk." She knew he had returned for another trick. Victor knocked on Kate's door with a friendly smile. "Good evening," he said. "I'm traveling across Texas selling kitchen tools. May I spend just one night in your barn?" Before Kate could answer, Ben happily opened the gate. "Of course, we even have extra blankets." Kate nearly rolled her eyes. If kindness had muscles, Ben would have been the strongest man alive. She realized she needed another clever plan before bedtime. While preparing dinner, Kate spoke loudly enough for Victor to hear through the open window. "Ben," she said, "don't forget we're staying at Aunt Mary's house tonight. She hates sleeping alone." Ben looked completely confused. "Since when do we have an Aunt Mary?" Kate secretly stepped on his foot under the table. Ben quickly changed his expression and forced a smile. "Oh, right. Aunt Mary, my favorite aunt," Kate continued, "and don't worry about my silver necklace and our savings. I've hidden everything safely inside the walls of this old house. No thief would ever think to look there." Victor almost dropped his spoon while listening. As soon as Kate and Ben left, Victor locked the front door behind them and began searching every room. He tapped on the walls, knocked on wooden boards, and even talked to himself. "Come on. Where are those valuables?" Soon he grabbed a hammer and started breaking pieces of the wall. Bang, bang, bang! Dust filled the house. A frightened cat jumped through the window, and Victor screamed louder than the cat. "This is the worst treasure hunt ever," he groaned, but he refused to quit. Victor spent the entire night tearing down wall after wall. By sunrise, the little farmhouse looked like it had been hit by a tornado. Exhausted and covered in dust from head to toe, Victor searched one last time. There was no silver necklace, no money, and no hidden treasure. Only broken wood, cracked bricks, and his own bad decisions. Suddenly, the truth hit him once again. Kate had fooled him for the second time. Furious, he grabbed his bag and ran away before anyone could catch him. When Kate and Ben returned home that morning, Ben froze in shock. "Kate," he cried, "our house is destroyed." But instead of crying, Kate smiled so widely that Ben couldn't believe his eyes. "Don't worry," she said calmly. "I've been saving money to build a bigger and stronger house. We needed to tear this old place down anyway. Now Victor has done the hardest part for free." Even Ben burst into laughter. "I guess he's the hardest working thief in Texas." News spread across Willow Creek faster than fresh apple pie at a county fair. Neighbors couldn't stop laughing after hearing how Victor had been tricked again. Some joked that Kate should open a school called How to Outsmart a Thief in 3 Easy Lessons. Even the town sheriff laughed and said, "I've chased criminals for 20 years, but I've never seen one work this hard without getting paid." Kate simply smiled and replied, "Greed makes people forget to think." Far away from town, Victor sat alone under a large oak tree, covered in dirt and filled with anger. He clenched his fists and whispered, "Nobody embarrasses me twice." At that moment, he made a dangerous promise. He would return one last time with a brand new disguise and an even smarter plan. But what Victor didn't know was that Kate was already one step ahead. Sometimes the smartest people don't win because they're stronger. They win because they stay calm, think clearly, and never let greed control their choices. The biggest battle between Kate and Victor was still waiting, and the final trick would change both of their lives forever.
Thank you for watching. We're so glad you're here. Like, share, subscribe, and spread the cheer. Join the Hop Street family today. See